It's in the wrong way now. Need to turn it slightly.
Yeah.
Tip it down a little bit.
Sort of push it round slightly. It should move.
This way?
The other way.
No, not the way, the other way.
Other way.
You're getting good.
More.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good. So here's a person got a huge amount of normally perfectly okay food. If the smallest infinitesimal amount of chometz falls in that, the whole thing is forbidden.
Yeah.
Whole thing becomes forbidden. Also, b'mashuhu, and that we don't find by other isurim in the Torah. Some people hold that the sages made such a. I mean, take another day where you got food is forbidden in such a way that if you eat, you're chayav koretz. Can anybody think what that is?
Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur?
Yom Kippur. Now on Yom Kippur, you're supposed to do tshuva, and you're supposed to pack away some good meals on Erev Yom Kippur. But do you mechuyev to run around and drive food out of your house?
No.
If I eat food on Yom Kippur, it's chayav koret. Yeah? So I should have to drive all the food out of my house on Erev Yom Kippur. Anybody ever dreamt of that?
Nope.
You can have your pantry and your frigidaire and everything full of food. You know? And you fast. Oh, babe, you touch that food, you chayav koret. So why don't we do chometz on Pesach? Which is this all, you know? Chometz on Pesach. A pachad. And like we said, you have to search for it on the night before. So let's get down a little bit to that. That's the most amazing thing. May it drive out what you see, you know, on Erev Pesach. Also a tremendous thing to, you know, have to go to burn it and drive it out of the world, or to go around looking for it, you know, and searching. Very unusual. So therefore, at the beginning of the Masechta Pesachim, Rashi says that the reason we have to be boidek, the chometz so much, is shelo yaveh balirov balimotzei. He said that the Torah, he seems to learn that the Vatika is understandable from the Torah. And because there's two negative commandments, you might be over that it shouldn't be seen and it shouldn't be found. That's why you have to be boidek. You follow? So it comes along over that Tosfos, and Tosfos says, but if we're talking about the Torah, then the Torah's got an eitzah called tashbisu. It says here to get rid of the chometz. You know? And if the Torah says, the Gemara says in Masechta Pesachim in the first, that you can be mekayim this mitzvah aseh of tashbisu with a thing called bittul. If it's before the time that it's also, and it's still yours, you can be mevatel it, which means most great Rishonim learn that bittul is mitam hefker. You can make it adequate, you can disown it. You just say it's no longer mine, and say a little nusach, that you don't have any kesher with it anymore, finish, and then it's no longer, you're no longer over v'valirov v'valimot. The truth is. So Tosfos says, you know, the Torah gives an eitzah of tashbisu, and tashbisu is enough to be mevatel. So Rashi says, no, but I have to search, so I shouldn't be over. He said, during the search, if you make bittul before the time that it becomes also on Erev Pesach, you can be mevatel, and then you're not over balirov balimot. So Tosfos says he doesn't understand why Rashi says that, and Tosfos says another thing. Here's where we get to the point. Tosfos says, you know why it is that you have to look for it, and then you got this amazing inner burning it, but that's another mitzvah, positive commandment. Tosfos said, because like we just pointed out, the whole year, the mensch lives with chometz. All of a sudden, it becomes awesome. Yeah, by Yom Kippur it also happens that way, but Yom Kippur is only one day, you know. And you're, to use the expression, you sit in shul the whole day. But Yom Kippur, you know, he says, Pesach, you're around the house the whole time. You're always there. And here's all this chometz, and he said a mensch is very familiar with chometz. You know, he's not separated at all from chometz. He's very much into it. You know, a piece of cake, a bit of mazenas, you know, some bread, the whole thing. A mensch lives the whole time with the chometz. A Melech says to Israel, you know why you have to search for it? You can be mevatel. You can be well, and then you already know over Bali wants it. But Avu became the Chacham say that you got to search for it. Yeah. For which, because you are so familiar with it, and you're so familiar, and 7 days you got to be apart from it, and you might come to eat it. You follow? You might come to eat it. You might forget what you're doing, and they'll come to you. So I'll come to eat it as well. It's forbidden. Okay, there's a lot of things that are forbidden. No, but this is forbidden with Koreh. This is a very serious matter. Therefore, it's written, you have to be Yom HaRishon, Tashbisu, Ki, and the Pasuk gives a reason. Ki kol ha'echol chometz, v'nikraso nefesh ha'hi miYisrael. He's going to get Koreh if he is. I mean, this is a very strict Indian. By Yom Kippur, it's only a short time. And anyway, the mensch is sort of, you know, he's busy with doing tshuva and davening. If they weren't geyser and kedekah, you follow? Over here, where you're very familiar with it, and you got to be separate from it the whole time, maybe you might forget and come to eat it. As you can be, and if you make bittul, then it can stay there, because it's no longer yours. And you're only over chometz, which is yours. So you've made bittul, you could leave it there. But Taisus says that Chum don't want that to happen. Because if you just leave it there, you might forget and you might eat it. Follow? Eating chometz is a terrible thing, so we don't want that to happen. And the old Rabbi brings us down Shulchan Aruch in one or two places, and he's masbeh the whole thing very beautifully, that you got to look for and destroy and burn, and the main basic reason is, even though there are other ways not to be over by your own veremotzei, but nonetheless, the Chachamim would go easier, that you have to do it because you might come to eat it. And Chas v'sholem, if you came to eat it, then you chayav korah. Up to here. So it comes around the intelligent reader, and the intelligent reader and the thoughtful thinker, yeah, he gets thinking, and he says, what's this business with chometz? I mean, chometz is a pretty harmful thing. It's just a bit of flour with water and a bit of yeast or whatever, and it becomes a thing called bread or cake or beer. Beer is terrible chometz. You know, beer is hotline chometz. That's what's called mamish chometz. Yeah. It's pretty harmless sort of stuff, you know. It's not any treif meat or something inside it, you know. So I thought to Shaila, why is the Torah so terribly makpid about chometz? And all of a sudden comes Pesach. It becomes the most terrible Issa. And later they were geyser that even b'mashu finished. Also ba'noah, also here, also there. It wakes up in a person pacha. So many great authorities, many great spiritual authorities, look for what is the key here to this whole amazing entity of chometz, which becomes so awesome. What is the problem? So it comes along the Sefer Chinuch, and usually he writes these very rich and expressive reasons for the mitzvahs. even though he stresses in his introduction that these are not the real reasons for the mitzvah, we don't know. The real reason for mitzvahs we don't know, but this helps us to understand and to be involved in the mitzvah if we have some way of picturing. So normally that's what he does. Here he just is very bakitza, that we're not allowed to eat chometz in order to remember all the nisim which happened by Yetzias Mitzrayim. And by Yetzias Mitzrayim, they couldn't eat. Now this is another thing that comes up, very fascinating. When the Yidden left Mitzrayim, what happened? Were they able to eat chometz when they left Mitzrayim?
No.
No. What happened?
They have time.
They don't have time. They don't have time. They need to leave Egypt now.
Why didn't they have time?
Because they're scared Pharaoh to change his mind. They're scared Pharaoh to change his mind. Like,
Was it L'mayla Me'azman?
what that mean?
What did he
Above
say?
time.
He's afraid that Paro would change his mind.
They were afraid they would fall back?
That Paro would change their
Yeah, the Mitzrayim drove them out.
Yeah.
The Mitzrayim says, you guys got to get out of here quick, after they done machas b'choyles and everything. They drove them out, and they were driven so powerfully out by the Mitzrayim that they couldn't, how they call it, pause for a moment.
I thought it was because if they stayed 1 minute longer, if they stayed longer, then they would have gotten to the
That's another matter. Over here we're talking about why couldn't they eat chometz? Because they were in such a hurry that the dough didn't have time to become chometz. That's a big miracle. And everybody writes that that's a miracle, because even though when they went from Sukkot to Ramses to Sukkot, they went, the first move out of Egypt, it's written that they had what's called Kritzas Adira. Hashem took them very quickly. It must have taken 18 minutes, because in 18 minutes, a bit of dough that you make turns into chometz. In 18 minutes.
18
minutes. Most of the great authorities say that 600,000 people to move, even miraculously, from one place right across to the other, with all their chattels and with all the kids and with everything, must have taken 18 minutes, and that's miraculous. Must have taken at least, as it should have become chometz, so it didn't. So that's a great, how do you call it? Miracle, a great L'mayla Me'ateva. So the Sefer HaChinuch says we're not allowed to eat chometz, the whole Pesach, to remember those great nisim that happened, that it didn't become chometz, and there wasn't any chometz, and everything was matzah, and so you got to remember all that. But that's a little bit, how do you call it, brief, and not very expressive. That doesn't tell us what is basically so wrong with eating chometz all the 7 days of Pesach. So, when they left, it didn't turn into, well, that's a ma'aseh shehoyo. It doesn't tell me what is hidden in the chometz that I got to keep away from it so terribly. Just don't eat some chometz, because it didn't happen that way, I eat matzah. I say keep the chometz on the side, like Pesach Sheni, for example. Pesach Sheni, you can have chometz on, so you just keep it away from the matzah that you're eating. You follow?
Yeah.
You don't have to get rid of it. Pesach Sheni. So do it that way, Pesach Rishon. Therefore, the explanation of the Sefer HaChinuch doesn't get to our basic question: what is so wrong with chometz? So, what I want to tell you like this: there was a great Rav that lived in Mitzrayim at the time when the Arizal was young. Because you know that the Arizal grew up in Mitzrayim, you know that. Because his father passed away when he was just a baby. And his mother took him and a brother of his to an uncle of theirs in Egypt, Mitzrayim. And the Rizal grew up there. And he learned Gemara, Nigla and all that. The Rizal learned by a very famous Rav. And he was called the Rabbeinu David ben Zimra. And he's called the Radvaz. That's the way he's referred to as the Radvaz. And he was a very, very great, amazing person. And he saw that, there's something with this Rizal person, very, very special. And he saw that he started locking himself away in a little house not far from the Nile River, and he was studying these books that nobody else studies. And he saw that he was getting very high, so he wanted the Radvaz, he wanted to stop there. Okay? He thought that it wasn't proper to learn so much of this Kabbalah. You had to put more emphasis on the Nikla in our time. Let's say the time then. So he was working out a way that he would stop the Arizal and persuade him to leave all this alone. He saw he had a brilliant mind. Let him become big in the revealed part of the Torah. You follow?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden the Radvaz had a dream. And Min Hashamayim, they said to him, listen, Rabbi, we appreciate your good thoughts and everything, but this young fellow, Yitzchak Luria, leave him alone. Don't interfere with him. Because he's going to reveal the inner light of the Torah to all the generations to come. You have to leave him alone. So Rabaz saw this dream, and he went out of his scaling, and then he thought, well, maybe it's just a dream. He dreamt it again. You follow? And he realized something. So he no longer interfered with the Arizal, and the Arizal became the Arizal. However, this Rabbeinu David ben Zimra, he was a very great, tremendous figure, and he wrote Shilas and Tshuvas, he wrote responsa called the Shilas and Tshuvas HaRadvaz. And he's got literally thousands of Tshuvas. Plus. Amongst all of them, thanks to Hashem nowadays we've got Maftechot, you can sort of look up these things, you can find out. The Radvaz writes over there that he's bothered by this question. He's bothered what is so terrible about Chometz that the Torah for a whole week makes it incomparably forbidden in such a way that it's not comparable to any other forbidden entity. What on earth is that? He writes there, maybe because then he said, no, that doesn't work because this wouldn't be right in comparison with something else. And he tries a whole series of ways to answer El Pinigla why it is that Chometz is different than other things. But he has to admit that he's not Matzliach. So has anybody, I don't know if you guys would have noticed in Sforim or anything, has anybody got an idea what he comes up with, the Radvaz? What does he say? I'm just asking for a suggestion. So you know what the Radvaz says? He says there's absolutely no brera. There's no choice but to learn that a fila in pashtas, in simplicity of the Torah, that Chometz means that Chometz means the Yetzer Hara. That's what he wrote. That Chometz is a sign of the Yetzer Hara. And he said the Yetzer Hara, he said you got to get rid of it, you got to drive it out, you got to burn it. And it's even also b'mashu, the Yetzer Hara. He said, because if you let it in, and it has a little minor infinitesimal hole, it just starts expanding. He said, once a year, you got to know what to do with the Yetzer Hara, and then for the rest of the year, you've got koiches to deal with it. That's what the Radvaz says. And he adds that why would the Yetzer Hara be compared to Chometz? He said, because chometz puffs up. When you put yeast in something, or you let it stay for a certain amount of time, it expands upwards. Matzahs are flat.
Yeah.
And they don't have much time. It depends what your time is, but there's certain great people who said they wait the whole year to taste the time of the matzahs. You know. They were very special people, very elevated people. But, you know, on a normal basis, matzah doesn't really have a taste, you know. So it's indicatory of not chometz. But he said the chometz puffs itself up. It gets into it, does it taste good, it doesn't taste good, you know, the whole thing. So he said that is the beginning of the move-in of the Yetzer Hara. You're going to make once a year a move out of the Yetzer Hara. Up to here is the statement of the RABBI. So that has taken us sort of into a new realm, that one of the great authorities in Nigla Shabbat, the greatest authorities in all the generations, he has quite honestly come to the conclusion that Al-Pi Nigla, there's no way of explaining it. And therefore, we have to say this is a very special case where the Nigla and the Pneumias need one the other, and they're united together, one the other. Yeah, normally speaking, we say Nigla's got its own things, and Pneumias has got its own things. So you have to bring a certain unity between them. You have to know that they're all the same Indian and so on. Over here he says they're mamish one and the same. They said you can't explain why chometz should be so forbidden without this idea that it's the Yetzer Hara. Okay, so that's, with that the Radvaz moves everything into a new field that we're able to examine this whole halakhic issue of chometz in a sort of slightly different way. We can look at it as a ruchnistic struggle against a certain entity embodied in the makeup of this thing, and for that reason the Torah comes down on it with all these mitzvahs to get rid of it, to be mavataled, not to be seen and not to be found, etc. Yes. And then later also b'mashahu. So comes along Siddhas, and Siddhas Chabad goes even a little deeper into the whole thing and says, listen, what's the problem with the Yetzer Hara? Why is the Yetzer Hara so much clear? Why does he sort of get away with things? Why is he such a big enemy like the Radvaz says? Once a year at least, you've got to completely get rid of him. Yeah. So he says, Chassidus says, because, like the Radvaz very rightly points out, that chometz puffs up. What does that indicate in Ruchnias? He said that indicates that you hold that you are an important entity. Did you hear that?
Yes.
You hold that you're an important entity.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Are you saying me? You say, look at all these good things there are in the world and everything. How come Hashem says I'm not allowed to have them? Why not? I'm me. And I'm important. Since I'm important, I should get all the good things in life. And so what happens to you is you become very accustomed to having good things and insisting on good things. And none of that you say that they are due to you. What happens? That what they call in Yiddish, you have a broad heter. Your way of finding a permissible stamp for all sorts of things gets broader. You say, oh, that hexer, that's also a hexer. It's not a Mahuda Dika Hexa, but it's a Hexa. Maya. So what happens? You come to the edge of the cliff, where there's already no action. I said, oh, that's a terrible way, we can find a way. I mean, yeah. You follow? Because you used to say, I'm important, I'm a Matthias. That's a stew to me. So what happens is you fall over the cliff. Which means that you fall into the hands of the Yetzer Hara. Oy vey vey.
Oy vey.
What does that mean? That the root of everything is self-importance.
Like comments.
And the root of everything is feeling the self.
Right.
And the root of everything of that is what's called I. Did you say, I am this, or I need that, or so what are you going to do? You have to use some sort of word. But there shouldn't be an I. There should be this and this, Hashem says. Hashem wants kacha. You know, whatever we or the world does what Hashem wants, you know, something like that. I. So it's written in Silas that that is the basis of what leads to the Yetzer Hara, and that is the basis of Chomet. They all begin in the same basic inyan. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe in his Siddur, the Alter Rebbe writes in the thing we say after Baruch Shoma every day, Mizmer L'Seido, yeah, Horiu L'Shem Kol Ha'oretz, yeah, Ivdu Es Hashem Be Simcha. Ivdu Es Hashem Be Simcha. You have to serve the Eivzer, you know, with Simcha. What's it got to do with Mizmer or Toida? So the Alter Rebbe says Toida means like giving thanksgiving. He said, what do you give thanksgiving for? For something that's happened outside of nature. For a nes, you know, something that's very unusual has happened. So he said, what's a nes? A nes is that Das Elyon has overtaken Das Tachtoin. And what is Das Tachtoin? Das Tachtoin is that I think I'm a Matthias, but I say there's also Hashem. And you know, you have to be bottled to Hashem, but you don't really feel the bittle. You say, oh yes sir. You know, L'Poel, you're pretty bottled, but you don't really feel it. But if that happens on earth, all of a sudden you see things that just don't make any sense, and yet nonetheless that happened. What do you realize? Realize the real truth is the other way. That the real yes is a Kodesh Baruch Hu, and you are the nothing. That's what happens when an es occurs. So Mizmor L'Seido means that you got to give thanksgiving to that happening. You got to give thanksgiving that you became nothing and Hashem became the yes. Yeah. If you look carefully in the Torah, there's a Korban Toidah. Now Rashi tells us over there in Pasuk Vayikra. Rashi tells us that a Korban Toidah, you have to bring 40 chalot. You know, loaves, they call 40 chalot. 10 of them have to be chometz, and 30 of them matzah. And we don't find by any other korban that you can bring chometz, only by a korban toidah. So the Alter Rebbe asked what he's doing, they're bringing matzah together with chometz. So he says, what is the difference between matzah and chometz? What's Mahu Ha'avdel? So you write me down chometz and matzah,
Yeah.
and then tell me what's the difference.
The chet and the hay.
Yeah.
Huh?
Hay and the
Oh,
chet.
a hay or a ches.
Ches, yeah.
Mem tzadi is the same. Chometz, he's got a ches. Matzah, it's got a hay. Now once again, ches and hay are very similar. Ches and hay, if you don't look carefully, sometimes my glasses,
Right.
I get them mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? That a ches is 3 kavim, 2 sides with a roof,
Mm-hmm.
but
I hear
it's all